The Freedmen Party's Reparations Now policy agenda includes the following. The allotment of our promised 40 acres referenced both in Sherman's Special Field Order 15, as well as the act establishing the Freedmen's Bureau on March 3, 1865. In addition, the plundering of the Freedmen's Bank must also be reversed. The $57 million stolen in 1874 is equivalent to $1.3 trillion at 7% interest adjusted for inflation. Moreover, the estimated value of our 4 million ancestors in 1860 amounted to $4 billion, which is equal to $230 trillion in today's dollars. That's a total of $6 million per freedman, which would go a long way to closing the lineage economic gaps in income and wealth. All policy regarding our repair must accord with United Nations law, which include the following forms: restitution, compensation, rehabilitation, satisfaction, and guarantees of non-repetition. Restitution should, whenever possible, restore the victim to the original situation before the gross violations of international human rights law or serious violations of international humanitarian law occurred. Restitution includes, as appropriate, restoration of liberty, enjoyment of human rights, identity, family life and citizenship, return to one's place of residence, restoration of employment, and return of property. Compensation should be provided for any economically accessible damage, as appropriate and proportional to the gravity of the violation and the circumstances of each case, resulting from gross violations of international human rights law and serious violations of international humanitarian law, such as a. Physical or mental harm, b. Lost opportunities, including employment, education, and social benefits, c. Material damages and loss of earnings, including loss of earning potential, d. Moral damage, e. Costs required for legal or expert assistance, medicine and medical services, and psychological and social services. Rehabilitation should include medical and psychological care, as well as legal and social services. Satisfaction should include, where applicable, any or all of the following: a. Effective measures aimed at the cessation of continuing violations. b. Verification of the facts and full and public disclosure of the truth to the extent that such disclosure does not cause further harm or threaten the safety and interests of the victim's relatives, witnesses, or persons who have intervened to assist the victim or prevent the occurrence of further violations. c. The search for the whereabouts of the disappeared, for the identities of the children abducted, and for the bodies of those killed, and assistance in the recovery, identification, and reburial of the bodies in accordance with the expressed or presumed wish of the victims, or the cultural practices of the families and communities. d. An official declaration or a judicial decision restoring the dignity, the reputation, and the rights of the victim and of persons closely connected with the victim. e. Public apology, including acknowledgement of the facts and acceptance of responsibility. f. Judicial and administrative sanctions against persons liable for the violations. g. Commemorations and tributes to the victims. h. Inclusion of an accurate account of the violations that occurred in international human rights law and international humanitarian law training, and in educational material at all levels. Guarantees of non-repetition should include, where applicable, any or all of the following measures, which will also contribute to prevention. a. Ensuring effective civilian control of military and security forces. b. Ensuring that all civilian and military proceedings abide by international standards of due process, fairness, and impartiality. c. Strengthening the independence of the judiciary. d. Protecting persons in the legal, medical, and healthcare professions, the media and other related professions, and human rights defenders. e. Providing, on a priority and continued basis, human rights and international humanitarian law education to all sectors of society and training for law enforcement officials, as well as military and security forces. f. Promoting the observance of codes of conduct and ethical norms, in particular international standards, by public servants, including law enforcement, correctional, media, medical, psychological, social service and military personnel, as well as by economic enterprises. G. Promoting mechanisms for preventing and monitoring social conflicts and their resolution. H. Reviewing and reforming laws contributing to or allowing gross violations of international human rights law and serious violations of international humanitarian law.